Welcome to Power Monday, where your Mondays will never be blue again. Hello everybody, good morning and welcome back to another episode of Power Monday where your Mondays will never be blue again. As always, my name is Taufik and if this is your first time tuning in, Power Monday is ERA's original podcast where we bring in the best of the best to share their real life journeys, the strategies that kept them going and the best practices for success. So if you guys are looking for your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration, we're here for you on Mondays 10 a.m. and you can also catch us on Spotify and 1ERA YouTube. Now for today's speaker joining me in the Power Monday studio, he is a notable figure in the legal realm, having been recognized by Legal 500 Southeast Asia 2024. As the head of legal and compliance here at ERA, he has played a pivotal role in establishing his team as a distinct advantage for the company, serving agents, clients, and regulators alike. Nicholas has guided ERA through rapid industry shifts, embracing technological innovation to continue offering top-tier support and services. His expertise is invaluable as we explore the future of compliance in real estate. We are going to find out more about we're going to know more about him and what he has to share with us today. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Nicholas.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Taufik.
joining.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
No problem. Okay, so before we start, the reason why I asked what your background is because I don't know if you know, but in diploma, I took law management.
At Temasek.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I thought if you were in diploma,
Yeah.
then we could talk. But maybe you want to share about a bit about your journey, how you start doing legal. Did you always interested in legal, and then how did you come to ERA?
Yeah, I mean, so I started off in legal. I was a lawyer at Lee & Lee, one of the biggest law firms in Singapore. And I started doing litigation. So that's in layman terms, that's the type of lawyer you see carrying the bags, going to court, fighting cases in court. So
which was so cool. I thought about that.
Yeah, thanks.
That's why I did.
A bit like Suits, right? Yeah. So that was the start of my career. So I spent about 5 years in the law firm, 6 years in the law firm, and then opportunity struck. And I had the chance to go to the airport, Changi Airport. So I mean, when I was young, I've always loved the airport. So I go there on weekends. I go there to study. If those of you remember the Swensons, there was a Swensons at P1, and there was this very long corridor where you could run all the way to the end to the playground. So those were one of the best memories of my life. So when Changi Airport came around and said, "Hey, we want you to come in and help us with all our construction projects," because another thing that I used to do apart from all the litigation was construction work. So at that time, Changi Airport was building Jewel as well as Terminal 4. So those were some of the projects that I worked on when I was at the airport. So it's a great it was a great time. I mean, I loved my 4 years over there. And then subsequently, I had the opportunity to head on to the public sector, and that's when I had the opportunity of working on the cross-border project for the RTS project in Singapore and Malaysia. So that was one of my projects as well. So yeah, it was a real blessing to be able to work there. And now on to ERA. So why did I join ERA? Right? I've always loved property. Right, from young. I think it's part of the Singapore story, the Singapore culture, the Singapore dream. Property is the Singapore dream, right? I think there was a study once done by one of the newspapers on what were the top websites that Singaporeans looked at, and Property Guru was number 2, I think. So I think it just shows you, people may not know about what are the things around their own area, but they will know what's the PSF of their property. So that's the reason I thought, I really love property, and I thought, this is a great chance for me to come out and do something that I like. So that was the big reason why I joined the ERA.
Yes, and here you are. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the phrase "you'll never walk alone." So, what does that phrase mean to you personally and professionally?
Sure. Okay, so I sometimes hear, from I'm a professional, and all of us, I think all the colleagues I work with in ERA, we're all professionals. Um, Working as a lawyer, engineer, real estate professional, management consultant can sometimes feel like a lonely journey. But I say feel, right? It feels
Yeah,
like a
feels
lonely journey.
like
For example, right? Just give example. Sometimes in good times, you feel, hey, there's no one here to help me push me to a higher level. I mean, when you talk about you'll never walk alone, people always think of bad times. But I also say in good times,
yeah.
you may actually sometimes miss that company to to
Yeah.
tell you, that mentor to tell you, hey, you're doing good, but you can go to an even higher level if you just tweaked your approach a little bit, right? So um in fact, I've come across many agents and many friends in the industry who told me that if they had the chance again to be in the market working as a real estate professional in 2019 to 2022, they will go 3 times as hard.
Oh.
And why? Because at that point of time, there was a lot of momentum in the market, right? So
Yeah,
a good mentor would have told you, hey, now's the time to LFG, right? Censored, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because you have to go. When momentum is here, it's precious. And I think those who've been around enough to know that when you have momentum, you got to ride it hard. Just as it's important to generate momentum, right? It's also quite easy for momentum to slip away.
True.
And
Yeah.
something that's something that may not even be might be out of your control, right? So that's something that's precious, momentum. And that's something that you can maximize and leverage on if you have the right company around you.
Yeah. So also when we talk about X factor, so what is the X factor actually in terms of the topics that we're discussing today?
Okay.
Yeah.
So in terms of the X factor, I think maybe just sharing my own personal story.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to X factor and how it helps in resilience, there was a time in my career at the start I was really struggling for air. I really felt overwhelmed. I think many of you, maybe you've got friends in the legal industry, or you've read stories on newspapers about how stressful it is for young lawyers in big firms. So I was at one of them, right? And I honestly felt really overwhelmed. Um, in law school, we just learn theory. You were there as well.
Yes.
So you learn theory,
Theories
you
of
learn
law.
textbooks, you learn case studies, but at the end of the day, it's all academic.
Yeah,
It doesn't affect anyone's life apart from your own if you don't do well for the exams. But right now, when you're out in practice from day one, the work that you do, that impacts people, that impacts organizations, and the kind of cases that I was working on, those are not just worth millions, but tens of millions of dollars. So that's stressful. Jumping from a situation where I'm just in school learning, reading textbooks, and now the textbooks, the stuff that you learn, you got to apply it in the real world, and there are real life consequences. So that stress was immense. And looking back, now looking back, I think a lot of people, some of my law students, they come up to me and say, "Hey, Prof, wow, you did all these things. It must be amazing to have done all these cases and to have won all these cases." And I say, yes. I said, yeah. Looking back, yes, it was great. But when I was there at that point of time experiencing it, it was very, very stressful,
Yeah.
right? And really, I wanted to emphasize that I only was able to get through all that because I had a great mentor. He really took me under his wing. So just one night, and there was I always remember this night. I think it was about 2 a.m. in the morning. I was working very hard on some submissions that we needed to present to the court, and we were under siege. Our opponent was like ripping our case apart. Yeah. So sometimes that's how it goes. Sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Adversarial. There's only one winner and one loser when you go to court, right? So at that time we were taking punches, like it's like boxing, and we recently watched Mike Tyson and Mike Tyson, but it's like taking punches, right? And then you gotta take some and you gotta give some as well. So when we were trying to give some, so I remember being very, very, very stressed and feeling really overwhelmed. And then I think my mentor knew, and then he walked by my office. He came in and said, "Nicholas, you always have challenges that you can't overcome, right? And maybe you really can't change the result, right? But what you can control is how you react. And really the best way to overcome this challenge that you have, your best chance of getting out of it is to learn how to stabilize yourself, right? It's like you're like on a, he said, you're on a seesaw, like a seesaw, you're moving up and down. And imagine like the cup of water on the seesaw. It goes up and up and down, right? The water is just going to spill all over the place.
Yeah.
So you have control over that seesaw because that's your heart, right?
Oh.
You got to know how to stabilize that. And once you stabilize that, then you can start thinking about what is the best way out of the situation. And I think what I appreciated was, that was real mentorship. He told me something that I needed to hear at that point of time. He didn't give me the solution because I think he probably didn't have it as well. It was, at that time we were trying to get across a very novel point of law. So he didn't give me the solution, but he told me what I needed to hear. And I'm very thankful we found a solution to that. And, so we won that case in the end.
Whoa.
And today that case is compulsory reading for all law students in law school. Yeah, for land law. Yeah. So I think that's the example I wanted to share on what a good mentor would do for you. It's not so much what he can teach you. Of course, there's content that he can teach you. But a good mentor also knows you inside out. And he comes in and he just gives you that kind word or that piece of advice. And that's something that sticks with you. So I've done many cases over the years. If you ask me, I can't remember a lot of it. But I can remember what my mentor told me. And I can remember what clients have told me. So those are the things that you take away with you at the end of the day, So I think, now bring it back to ERA. I think for ERA, that's one of our biggest strengths. And that's one reason why I'm really proud of ERA. It's the mentorship that our uplines, our management, they provide. So when you see our tagline, right, trusted by generations, it's not just consumers. I want to emphasize that, it's not just consumers who've trusted us for generations, but also agents. I think we started 40 years ago with an office less than 10 agents in the office. Today we've grown, right? Today we have 25,000 agents all over Asia Pacific. And that's really a testament to our journey, especially when it comes to mentorship, because you don't get to such a stage without that level of mentorship. And that's something that I think I've seen in real life. Like, for example, just this morning, I was with one of our agents and the upline, and the upline was super supportive. And the upline was also able to, he knew the agent very well. Right, he knows what she's like, and he was able to just counsel her and say, hey, look, this is the best way to approach this matter. It's like this, not just legal advice, but from a personal point of view, and then as a friend, this is what you should do.
Provide comfort and assurance.
Yeah, so I think that, and then in the end, the agent, he decided that I think what everyone is saying makes sense, right? And I think that's something that I'm grateful for, right? I have a lot of very supportive uplines, a lot of supportive agents, and they're very receptive to advice and very receptive to solutions that ERA can provide. And so that's something that I really, really appreciate. Another thing that I also wanted to share and blast out is that ERA, we won the Financial Times Best Employers Award, right? So we are now in the part of the best employer, right? Part of the company that's the best employer in Asia Pacific. In fact, I think we are Singapore's number one, right? We're number one company in Singapore. And this is alongside other household names like SIA and DBS. So I think that speaks a lot about ERA's approach, about ERA's commitment to leveling up our agents, and leveling up our staff. It's not just, just agents, but also our staff. And for example, that's why we created ERA Academy. I mean, how many organizations will not just, it's easy to just preach. Everyone must do training, must do learning. But how many organizations actually practice what they preach and set up a school right in the middle of the organization and then, give it center stage? ERA Academy, promoting programs like the next level training, right? So that kind of mentality is priceless.
Correct.
Right? Because you got to continue pushing that, because it's when we push, then we get to hit new breakthroughs.
Yeah.
And that's actually what everyone wants, right? That's something that, really makes me very proud to be in ERA.
And that's when you know you're never alone.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why I know you'll never walk alone.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, so as a leader yourself, how can leaders foster a culture of support and collaboration within a team?
Sure. I think it's important for leaders to take time to know your members, right? You have to take time. That time is valuable, and it's a two-way thing as well. I think for team members, you have to be open to your leader trying to make time to meet with you. I always say mentorship is a two-way thing. As a leader, you may want to mentor, but the mentee also needs to want to be mentored. And the mentee also needs to bring something to the table, right? So, you have to be able to bring something to the table. And then the mentor says, yeah, you bring something to the table. The mentor is not someone who can, take a magic wand and then transform you, right? It doesn't work that way. But what mentors can do is that they're like a master chef, right? You bring ingredients to them. You show them what you can do, right? You show them what you have. And then they'll go, okay, since you have these 4 or 5 things that you have, these are the ingredients. And then we put them together and we create this unique product, So I think that's something that our mentors are very good at. And I've seen over the years, I mean, every year I see, new stars being made at ERA. So I think that's something that is really very unique about us.
Yeah. And then when we discuss about not being alone and having the right people, the right support, so what about how we handle conflicts in team, like maintaining trust and cohesion?
Okay. I think no one likes conflicts, first of all, right? But it happens, right? It happens. No one likes conflicts, but it happens. But for me, right, I see conflicts quite often.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when it comes to resolving them, I think 2 things are always very important to me. The first is if you're trying to resolve a conflict, is first to create a safe space for everyone to speak up, right? If I feel like I'm going to a conversation where I'm just going to be attacked, I don't get a chance to say my piece safely.
Yeah.
All right, or I get to ventilate the issues. I don't get that opportunity to ventilate my issues safely, or I think that everything's prejudged already. Yeah. You haven't even come and talked to me, you already judge me already. I think then that's the kind of that's not helpful. And that's the kind of mentality that often scuppers the deal, right? And likewise as well, if you're the one turning up for the meeting, you got to be open as well. You go in with a closed and a hard heart, nothing's going to be achieved, right?
Yeah.
Apart from wasting your time and agitating yourself even further.
Yeah.
Right. Another point that I wanted to share is it's also important to get the timing right. When you're resolving disputes, timing is crucial, right? Especially if you're trying to resolve it peacefully. Right? If you're trying to resolve something peacefully, then you got to catch people at the right time. You got to create the space, timing, space. All this like soft skills. Become very, very important. It's not just about who's right.
Crucial.
You're not talking about right is might, right? Yeah. Over here, you're talking about everyone wants to be right. Everyone should have a chance to be right, and everyone should have a chance to come out of the conversation thinking, this is a compromise, and it's ready for the greater good. Yeah.
It's so fun to see how passionate you are. Can I just ask, was legal something you always wanted to do, like even in school, secondary?
Yeah, I mean, all along, it's always been on the cards. Yeah.
Really?
So, back when I was in a little boy.
What was the triggering moment?
Triggering moment was when my dad told me, son, you got to go to law school. A traditional Asian, I read traditional Asian father.
Interesting. Yeah. For me, if you allow me to share a bit, it's because when my parents went through divorce, and then I've been at primary 5, I keep going to court, and I thought like being a lawyer was so cool.
You can still help out in the legal team, It's an open offer.
Garrett.
Garrett, can I borrow him?
But no, yeah.
I didn't know that your department has a trained, someone who's trained in law. So it's amazing.
But no, my time as an intern was interesting. But I only did criminal law and a bit of probate.
Yeah.
But if you were to ask me now, honestly, I forget already.
It's okay.
So
It's
no
like
lah.
it's like riding a bicycle.
Maybe I can do some.
Yeah, maybe you can
research.
come and work with us. You know.
Oh yeah, maybe memory will come
Yeah,
back.
it
or
will
maybe
come back. It will
some-
come back like
some
swimming.
trauma. Or maybe-
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the topic. What advice would you give to someone who's struggling to find a place in a team?
I think, you can't force it, right? You can't force, people to accept you, and to welcome you into a team. They might be welcoming as a starting point, but you really can't force it. But what you can really do is to talk to people and also try and find a way to contribute. In my experience, if you are able to contribute, and that's why you should talk to people to find out how you can contribute.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That conversation is important, because once you are able to contribute, you become valued. Right? And then that's how you join a team. The team will go, hey, you bring something to the table. I want you on my team now. Yeah, and that's something that I've always looked at with a lot of interest for myself, as well as for all my team members in my teams over the years, because you always have to look out for the value that you're bringing to an organization, for the value that you're bringing to your team. It's really no point just doing the same thing over and over and over again if it doesn't bring value to the organization, to the team, and to yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You got to look at all three. Yeah, and if it doesn't align, then you got to relook and rethink about what you're doing and why you're doing it.
So that is on a professional level. How about if you go deeper into personal level? Like how would you advise someone trying to find their place in their own life?
I think when you're trying to find your place in life, it's important to understand yourself. And a lot of times, there's a lot of noise. Especially in today's in today's world, there's a lot of noise. You go on TikTok, you see so many people trying to tell you how to live your life.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, right. You see TikTok, you see people trying to tell you live your life. You go to different organizations, we'll tell you how to live your life. And I'll be honest, you come to ERA, we also tell you, there's a certain, way you should live your life. But you have to ask yourself, is it right for me? Right? Because at the end of the day, you are the star of your own show. Right? And really all these advice, all these friends, all this support, these are all supporting actors, right?
Yeah.
But you are the star of your own show. You got to take ownership of it. You got to really sit down and ask yourself, what do I want from life? And once you get that right, then you can go forward with full conviction. Otherwise you always go 3 steps, then you go, maybe I should go back 2 steps. Maybe I should change direction. And that's the one that, and that, so you got to like take the bull by its horns and just ask yourself, is this where I want to be 5 years from now? What do I want? And you got to commit to it. And then once you commit to it, right, that conviction will take you through.
Yeah. You cannot just like half.
Yes, it's to me, I'm quite an extreme person. It's always all
Really?
or nothing.
Oh.
I mean, because I think for me, when I've seen it's quite stark, right? When you are at the top, the returns you get is much more than the person who gets second, third, fourth. You remember who wins the World Cup. You seldom remember who came in fourth at the World Cup. So it's always all or you got to go all in. Yeah. Otherwise, life is hard enough really without having to put your resources in 3 or 4 different baskets. Yeah, you got to think this is really what I want for my life, and then I'm going to go all in for that. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so before we end things off, Nicholas, any final words to the audience about anything at all? The floor is open to you.
I think at the end of the day, what I really wanted is, I hope that, after you hear this, you'll be motivated, right?
Yeah.
And not just motivated, but also, you'll be touched by the sharing. And, you think for yourself. I think at the end of the day, it's very important to think for yourself about what's best for yourself, and then having that conviction to then just go for it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Nicholas,
Thank
for
you.
joining with me today. And thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of Power Monday. We hope what Nicholas has shared have brought you some insights on mutual support. So remember, collective effort, trust, and shared resilience are the X factor for overcoming adversity and building a sustainable winning culture. So if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to continue to follow us on Spotify and like, share, and comment on our video on 1ERA YouTube. Until next time, keep pushing forward, stay empowered as we continue to rise by raising others. And remember, your Mondays will never have to be blue again. This has been Nicholas and Taufik. Today, have an incredible week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Power Monday, where your Mondays will never be blue again.